My name is Arch Wong, and I'm the Associate Director of the Flourishing Congregations Institute. I'm also Professor of Practical Theology at Ambrose Seminary. What do we mean by spiritual formation and discipleship, and what does that look like in a congregation? As I look into the literature on spiritual formation and discipleship from a Catholic, mainline Protestant, and conservative Protestant perspective, all three ecclesial families emphasize different aspects of discipleship. It's very multifaceted. But what all three ecclesial families or traditions have in common is this, that a disciple is a follower of Jesus who moves to some type of transformation or maturity in their Christian faith. This past year, I had the privilege of participating in a case study with an Anglican parish. And one area where this parish was flourishing was in discipleship and formation. And through our interviews, the parish survey, looking at archival history, and participating in the various ministries, we found several ministry areas or contexts where spiritual formation was happening. Many of the congregants mentioned the importance of music in the worship. For some, the liturgy was beautiful and mysterious, that help congregants turn their gaze towards God and connect to the soul. Others, the importance of the Holy Communion, and still for others, the importance of the music in the liturgy provided a sense of identity for this congregation as a welcoming community. Preaching. Many of the congregants mentioned the importance of excellent preaching and those recent rectors who preached well that assisted them in their spiritual growth. It seems one of the pathways for some of the congregants to grow spiritually happened in a Bible study or a small group context. So learning with others in community seemed to be important for many of the congregants. It was this learning together through conversation and time to reflect on the learning that aided spiritual growth. Learning happened in these small groups and Bible studies because of the diverse people and personalities that made up the learning community and the respect and trust that developed. Worship and liturgy, good preaching, small groups seem to be common vehicles used for spiritual formation. And perhaps this is very unsurprising to you for any congregation to flourish. Now, what was interesting, and what was that interesting finding, was this theme of connection and relationality. It was the quote unquote glue that seemed to bring together worship and liturgy, good preaching in small groups that helped congregants grow spiritually. And for this Anglican parish, spiritual formation happened in an atmosphere of community and relationship building. Discipleship happens in relationships and knowing the other. The findings from this case study seem to confirm other studies that the Flourishing Congregations Institute has done. In a survey of over 9,100 Catholic, mainline Protestants, and conservative Protestants, we found that although spiritual practices, small groups, worship, preaching, they were important factors for spiritual growth. But what was also important was a congregation's culture of discipleship that is intentional, welcoming, safe, and caring. And it seemed that discipleship rarely happens by accident in a congregational setting. The areas that congregations recognize as vital to their identity necessitates intentionality in practice when it comes to helping congregants grow spiritually. The other thing, this strong relationship between a congregation's ability to help congregants grow spiritually and a congregant's need to feel safe to explore and ask questions and express doubts and struggles about the Christian faith or the congregational discipleship process is a necessity to build community. Now, this speaks to the level of trust that congregants have for one another. And related to trust, having a strong sense of belonging being cared for by others, and friendship in the congregation addresses the quality and responsibility of community building. So it seems these environmental or contextual factors are the conditions which may set forth spiritual growth in a congregation, which you as a pastor need to consider. So, a few departing questions to have conversations with leaders and congregants. There are four. One, is your congregation a safe place to explore the Christian faith? Two, do people have a strong sense of belonging in your congregation? Three, do people take care of one another in your congregation? And four, do people find it easy to make friends within your congregation? I hope what I have said about spiritual formation is helpful to you and that you can use these reflection questions to move forward.